My mother's voicemail was brief and chilling. "You're out. Don't come back. We're moving forward without you." I simply texted, "Noted," in response. Without a second thought, I immediately revoked my authorization from the family trust, flagged our shared bank account, and withdrew my name from a real estate deal I had personally financed. By the following morning, my phone showed 79 missed calls and a message from their lawyer that read, "We have a serious problem." I burst out laughing and typed my reply. At that moment, I was prepared to completely erase them from my life. There was no hesitation, no regret. The casual, cold way they handled my expulsion made it almost impossible to maintain composure. It felt as though they had been patiently waiting for the perfect excuse to discard me. And now that they had it, they didn't even bother to feign compassion. The voicemail hit me while I was at work. It was only 10 seconds long. My mother's voice was flat, devoid of anger or emotion, just a finality. "You're out. Don't come back. We'll live without you." I replayed it twice to confirm what I'd heard. She never spoke my name, nor did she offer an explanation. Just those few words, as if they'd been meticulously rehearsed. I saw no point in calling back. I recognized that tone. I knew when something was truly final. So, I responded with 2 words of my own. "Got it." Then, I got to work. The first step was logging into the trust account. I had, after all, been the one to establish it. They never quite grasped its mechanics, only that it existed and that I had assured them it was for the family's future. I promptly revoked my consent. Without my signature, that trust was paralyzed. All their ambitious plans, future investments, tax shelters, even the emergency access clause were instantly frozen. Next, I tackled the joint account. This account was originally designated for genuine emergencies, like when my father fractured his wrist last year. However, I'd recently noticed a pattern of misuse. Routine grocery trips, online shopping sprees, even restaurant tabs. I shut it down completely, locking it with 2-factor authentication linked exclusively to my personal email. The balance instantly plummeted to 0. It was my money to begin with. Then, I pulled out of the real estate deal. We were in escrow on a modest 2-story home just outside of Portland. My name, my credit, my down payment. They wanted a retirement property, and I had agreed to help them purchase it, on the explicit condition that it would remain in my name until they could contribute their share. I called the agent and had my name formally removed from the agreement. She seemed stunned, but I offered no explanations. No one merits an explanation after delivering a 10-word eviction notice via voicemail. By the time I arrived home, it was done. My name was stripped from everything. I anticipated some backlash, perhaps a few angry texts. What I didn't foresee was waking up to 79 missed calls. My phone vibrated relentlessly the moment I powered it on. The first call was from Dad, then Mum, followed by a torrent of unknown numbers, and a single voicemail from their lawyer. "We have a serious problem. Please call me back." I didn't. Instead, I stood in my kitchen and simply laughed. It wasn't a bitter laugh, nor was it forced. It was pure relief. For the first time, they faced a problem that wasn't mine to solve. Around noon, the texts began. From Mum, "We didn't mean it like that." From Dad, "It's just a misunderstanding. Let's talk." My sister's silence, however, spoke volumes. I knew it wasn't a coincidence. She'd been dropping subtle hints for weeks, discussing ways to streamline things and simplify the house ownership. She had a knack for phrasing things in a way that sounded helpful. That was her signature move. Get close, feign innocence, then manipulate. I used to defend her, even when she didn't deserve it. But now, the pieces began to fit. The escalating tension at home hadn't appeared out of nowhere. It had a definite source, and I had a sinking feeling I was looking directly at it. She had always harbored resentment about the trust our parents placed in me. I managed the finances, the logistics, the long-term plans. She was typically content to be the decorative presence, uninvolved until now. She had evidently convinced them that I was the issue, and whatever she told them must have been severe enough to prompt them to cast me out without a single conversation. But she made one critical miscalculation. I don't return when I'm thrown out. I return when I intend to dismantle everything. The silence didn't bother me. In fact, I welcomed it. After everything they had said, or hadn't said, I believed we all needed space. They to panic, me to reflect. I ignored their calls, left their texts unread, and didn't even bother listening to the mounting voicemails. I waited, eager to see how long it would take before desperation began to fracture their composed facade. It took 3 days. That morning, my phone flashed with a security alert from my building. My dad was at the front gate. He had no legitimate reason to be there. I watched him through the camera feed. He didn't attempt to call me. He just stood there, shifting his weight, checking his phone, then looking up as if I might miraculously appear in a window. He waited for nearly 10 minutes. I never buzzed him in. Later that night, I discovered a folded note taped to my door. It was from my mum. Her handwriting was unmistakable, neat and slanted, as if she were still in Catholic school. The note offered little substance, a series of vague apologies. A few lines like, "We didn't mean to hurt you, and please don't make any decisions you can't undo." I read it once and tossed it in the trash. No explanation, no accountability, just more soft language designed to coax me back. Still nothing from my sister. I didn't expect her to reach out. She was likely too busy celebrating what she perceived as a victory. She had successfully maneuvered me out of the trust, the house, and the family dynamic, all quietly, without confrontation. That was her modus operandi, behind the scenes, sabotage disguised as helpfulness. I decided it was time to make my move. I called the real estate agent we had been working with. She answered immediately, cheerful at first, but her tone shifted the moment I requested her to send a formal withdrawal notice to my parents. She hesitated, claiming she didn't want to get involved in a family conflict. "You're not in the middle," I informed her. "You're a paper trail." She sent the email. I didn't need to witness their reaction. I could imagine it perfectly. The cold shock of seeing something in writing, something irreversible. It was one thing to disregard a voicemail or a text. It was quite another to receive a legal notice stating that their son had officially recused himself from the one thing keeping their finances afloat. The next morning, my mom tried calling again 6 times, all unanswered. By the afternoon, their lawyer emailed me. Only one line resonated. "There's more to this than you think." I pondered that for a while. More to this, so I continued to wait. That night, my sister finally broke her silence. She texted me a single sentence. "I hope you're proud of what you've done." I stared at it. No punctuation, just enough venom to confirm what I already suspected. She had been the orchestrator of everything. And now that things weren't unfolding as she'd anticipated, she was starting to lose control. She believed I would come crawling back or explode in fury. What she failed to grasp was that I had no intention of returning at all, not until the damage was complete. The following day, I unexpectedly ran into one of my dad's old friends at a gas station. We hadn't spoken in over a year. He smiled, inquired about the house, then casually uttered a line that lingered in my mind. "I heard you pulled out of the deal because you couldn't handle the financial pressure." Rough stuff, I smiled back, offering no correction, but in my mind it clicked. She was already disseminating her distorted version of events. That's when I contacted our former accountant, the one we used before my sister insisted we switch to someone younger, trendier, more proactive. I arranged a meeting and presented him with copies of the trust paperwork I still possessed. He recalled every detail. When I asked what could subtly sabotage the trust from within, he gave me a cautious look. He said he preferred not to get involved, but then offered a crucial hint. If someone provided inaccurate information to your parents, making it seem like it originated from you, that could easily sway everything. That was all the information I needed. Now I had a clear direction. She had been acting as a puppet master, feeding them lies, fostering paranoia, perhaps even fabricating a few specifics, all to eliminate me from the equation. But what she didn't realize was that the moment she made me an adversary, she ceased to be secure. I didn't need to yell, nor did I need immediate revenge. Not yet. I just needed to patiently await the perfect moment to watch her own narrative crumble before their eyes. I didn't have to wait long for the cracks to appear. They surfaced faster than I anticipated. First came a call from the new accountant there. Accountant now. He left a voicemail requesting clarification on a few discrepancies in the trust paperwork and bank activity. I had never once spoken to this individual before. Why would I need to clarify anything? I didn't call him back. Instead, I forwarded the message to my old accountant. He called me within the hour. "Sounds like someone tried to amend the trust," he stated. "Without my signature?" I asked. "That's the part that doesn't make sense," he replied. He couldn't confirm who had initiated the changes, but it was clear someone had attempted to push through modifications covertly. Someone who failed to understand that, despite all the emotional turmoil, my legal authority hadn't vanished just because I had gone silent. The moment he said amend, I knew who it was. I knew she had tried to step into the role I had meticulously built. I just hadn't expected her to do it so carelessly. It got even better. The following week, I met for lunch with a cousin I rarely spoke to. She had messaged me out of the blue, mentioning she'd heard something peculiar and wanted to discuss it. She didn't know the specifics, just that my sister had been telling relatives I was cutting off the family out of greed, that I was unwilling to share, and that I'd always been controlling. I chuckled. She used the word controlling because it carried a negative connotation. She knew people would believe it. That was her strategy. Don't accuse someone of anything too extreme, just enough to twist the story. But people talk, they compare notes, and things began to unravel when she made a blunder. She told one version to my uncle and a slightly different one to my cousin. Different timelines, different motivations, but the same target. Me. I said nothing publicly. I didn't initiate a family group chat war. I waited. Then came the moment I didn't expect but couldn't have orchestrated better. An email from the real estate agent. She had accidentally CC'd me on a reply to my sister. My sister had apparently contacted her, attempting to ascertain if the property could still be salvaged without me on the contract, and had casually implied I'd withdrawn due to mental instability. That's when something inside me snapped. Mental instability. That's how she was framing it. She was attempting to discredit me to the one person who could verify how much I'd invested in that house. The one person who knew I was the sole reason the deal was even feasible. I replied directly to the agent, copied my lawyer, and attached proof of all payments I had made toward the deal, including a forwarded email from months earlier clearly showing that the entire initiative was my original idea. The agent responded within an hour, her tone now stiff and professional. She thanked me for the clarification and stated she would not be engaging in any further non-transactional communication with my sister. I knew what would transpire next, and I was correct. That night my phone rang. Mum again. I let it go to voicemail, then Dad, then finally, my sister. I answered. She immediately launched into accusations, claiming I was trying to destroy everything and playing the victim, simply because she had asked a few questions. I allowed her to rant. Then, I asked one thing: why did you lie about me to the real estate agent? Silence. Then she hung up. That was the first genuine crack, the one I could exploit. I didn't yet know precisely what she had told our parents, but it had to be something deeply personal, something believable, something that made them turn on me without a moment's hesitation. I just needed to get them to utter it aloud, and then I would bring everything down. It happened sooner than I thought. The following Sunday, my mum called again. I let it ring. Then I saw a text. Please, just give us 5 minutes. No accusations, no yelling. 5 minutes. That was all I needed. I called back. They were on speaker. I could sense the tension before anyone spoke. My dad began fumbling through a half-prepared statement about how things got out of hand. My mum interrupted, saying they never intended to hurt me, that they were simply reacting to what they were told. That was my opening. Told by who? I inquired. Silence. Then my dad cleared his throat. Your sister said you were planning to take full control of everything, that you were trying to leave us with nothing, that you said we were dragging you down. I was too stunned to react, taken aback by how specific and absurd the lie was. I kept my voice calm. When did I say that? My mom hesitated. She said you told her a few weeks ago. In the car after that argument at dinner. There had never been a car ride. There had never even been an argument at that dinner. We had eaten, in awkward silence, and left in separate cars. It was such a clear, foolish fabrication that I almost laughed. Instead, I asked, did it ever occur to you to ask me? They didn't respond. She also told us you'd already met with a lawyer about cutting us out of the trust, my dad added. That you wanted her to take over once we were pushed out. That's when I knew she hadn't just bent the truth, she had completely inverted it. She had attributed everything she was doing covertly to me, and they bought it, because it was simpler to believe their son had turned greedy than to admit their daughter was manipulating them for a larger share. I didn't yell, I didn't explain, I simply stated, meet me tomorrow, all of you. No excuses. I'll bring the documents. You bring the lies. They agreed. The next evening, we sat at their dining room table. I had a folder filled with bank statements, email printouts, and the forwarded message from the real estate agent where my sister had casually implied I was mentally unstable. She sat across from me, arms crossed, defiant, as if this was still her stage. I began with the agent's email, then the payments I had made, then the text she'd sent to relatives. Each time I laid something down, I remained silent. I let the evidence speak for itself. My mum stared at the table. My dad kept glancing at her as if she might salvage the moment. Then I concluded with the final document, a forwarded message from our old accountant confirming that a recent attempt had been made to alter the trust by someone falsely claiming joint authority. That was the breaking point. My sister looked as if she wanted to speak, but for once, she was speechless. I stood up. You wanted me out. Congratulations, now you're out. I turned to my parents. She lied, and you allowed her to. You believed her because it was easier than talking to me. No one argued. My mum finally spoke, her voice barely a whisper. We didn't know. You didn't ask, I said, and walked out. 2 days later, I received a text from my dad. We've removed her from the trust. Then from my mum, we were wrong. Please come back. I didn't reply immediately. Making her twist the knife had required careful planning, but making them see it had demanded patience. And now that the illusion was shattered, I wasn't finished. Because forgiveness doesn't nullify consequences. 3 days after they removed her from the trust, my sister showed up at my office. I had no idea how she found the address. I had moved locations a year ago and hadn't told anyone. Perhaps she dug through old emails, or maybe she followed me. Either way, she stood in the lobby as if nothing had happened, as if she had every right to be there. She requested 10 minutes. I granted her 5. She walked in smiling, radiating a false calm, as if this were just some trivial misunderstanding between siblings. She claimed to understand now, that things had gotten a little out of hand, and that our parents had overreacted. She never admitted to lying. She skirted the issue, blaming confusion, stress, emotions. Then she got to the crux of it. She wanted to make things right, not with me, but with the business. She genuinely believed she could still be part of the family business, even though she was officially out of the trust. She inquired if I would consider giving her a small role. She even added, "It'll show Mum and Dad that we're still strong." As a family, I almost chuckled. I stood up, walked to the file cabinet, and pulled out a folder I hadn't touched in months. It was an old draft of a business proposal she had once pleaded with me to review some flimsy pitch for a lifestyle brand she thought would go viral. She had asked for funding. I had said no. I handed her the folder and said, "Start your own." She flipped through the pages, confused. Then she looked at me, finally realizing this wasn't a detour. This was a dead end. "You think you're punishing me?" she asked. "No," I replied. "Not yet." She stormed out. I didn't stop her. That evening, I called the accountant again, asking how long it would take to formally transfer controlling interest in the business accounts from the collective family structure into a 2-person arrangement. Me and my dad. No loopholes, no access for anyone else. He said it could be completed by the end of the week. I waited for the paperwork to finalize. Then, I made a move no one saw coming. I called my parents and asked them to meet me, just us. We sat down over dinner, and I revealed the full extent of what I had uncovered. Emails, messages, the fabricated timeline, the forged intent to alter the trust. I laid it all out, and then I said something they didn't anticipate. I'm willing to bring everything back: the trust, the house, the joint ownership, but only if she's completely cut off. My mum looked uneasy. My dad didn't. He simply said, "Done." And with that, it was official. That same week, I reinserted my name into the real estate deal. The agent was surprised but pleased. Financing went through swiftly this time. My credit, my assets, my control. I didn't tell my sister. Instead, I let her discover it from the public property records. She sent one text the next morning: "You stole it from me." I didn't answer. Later that afternoon, her best friend, someone I had known for years, sent me a message: "She's been trying to get a loan, no one will co-sign." I smiled. The house she wanted to take from me was mine again. The trust she tried to hijack was rebuilt without her. The business she tried to get involved in was sealed off permanently, and no one was coming to save her. Not this time. 3 quiet weeks passed. Not a single word from her. After everything, after the lies, the manipulation, the smear campaign, my sister simply vanished into silence. I anticipated another move, perhaps a legal threat or another covert attempt to twist the narrative, but there was nothing, not even a feigned apology. She was out of options. Meanwhile, my parents and I slowly began to mend what remained. We started with small things: Sunday coffee, helping them organize their moving paperwork, conversations about the past without flinching away from it. They stopped defending her, not because I asked them to, but because they now saw everything clearly, without filters or excuses. One night, my mum retrieved the old folder with the original real estate agreement. She asked if I would consider reinstating the initial plan, with me, her, and my dad sharing ownership of the new house. I didn't say yes immediately. Instead, I drafted a new structure: full ownership under my name, with a written, notarized agreement granting them full living rights, no expiration, no rent, no strings attached. If anything happened to me, a legal clause would ensure they could remain without any threat of the property being contested. No one, especially not my sister, could ever touch it. They agreed without hesitation. It wasn't just about the house anymore. It was a complete reset. The following week I walked into the title office, signed the revised documents, and saw my name back where it rightfully belonged. The house was ours again, mine to secure, theirs to live in. She wasn't just out, she was legally locked out of everything. The trust was finalized 2 days later. It now included only me and my parents. The clauses were ironclad. Any attempt to interfere would trigger an automatic freeze and full audit. Our accountant ensured that. Then came a voicemail from a blocked number. I let it ring. When I checked it later, her voice was tired, smaller than I remembered. "I'm sorry things turned out like this," she said. "You've made your point. I just hope someday you can be mature enough to move on." I deleted it. There was nothing to move on from. I had nothing left to prove to her. She took her shot, tried to remove me from the picture, and now she was outside, looking in. My dad later told me she called him too, saying she had a new business idea and needed money to start over. She didn't ask to come back into the family, just for support. He told her no. There was no lengthy explanation, no dramatic pause, just a firm no. That was the first time in my life I witnessed him draw a line without flinching. The day we moved into the new house was quiet. No grand celebration, just me and my parents unloading boxes, deciding who got which room. My mum hung a photo of the three of us from 10 years ago, one of the few where we genuinely looked like a team. She said she was weary of pretending things hadn't changed. We were different now, wiser, a little bruised, but whole again. A few days later, her old best friend sent me a message. Apparently, my sister had been reaching out to anyone who would listen. People she hadn't spoken to in years, trying to portray herself as the victim. She claimed she'd been unfairly cut out of everything. That I had manipulated our parents. That I had stolen what was rightfully hers. Nobody was buying it. The friend sent a final message. "Whatever you did, she's completely alone now." I didn't reply. There was nothing left to say. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about ensuring the door she slammed behind me was the same one that remained firmly shut on her. She desired control. She craved leverage. She thought she could push me out and effortlessly step in, smiling as if she had earned it. But now, she had no seat at the table, no access, no name on any papers, no story anyone believed, and the three of us, we were finally home. Mini update. It's been a month since we moved into the house. Things have finally settled down. My parents and I have established a comfortable routine now. It's quiet, easy. We don't revisit what happened, not because it's awkward, but because we've truly moved past it. They trust me again, and I've stopped bracing myself for the next betrayal. She's gone completely silent. No texts, no calls. I heard through someone that she's renting a small place. She tried launching something on her own, but it went nowhere. She burned every bridge she had. The trust, the house, the business, is locked down, stable, and undeniably mine. I don't feel angry anymore, just a profound sense of clarity. She believed cutting me out would grant her everything, but now she possesses nothing. And that, precisely, is how it should be.